Hello, my friends. How are you? My name is Natasha, and I'm so excited to be filming with you today. I am a little on the tired side, as in a lot. It's about 11:10 p.m. on my self-care Sunday. Yes. And, for me, one of the things that I've learned in my personal glow up has been this. Bodies in motion stay in motion. And so for me, what I have come to realize is if I'm in a good, consistent habit, if I'm in a routine and I have this capability of being able to stick with it. For me, where I find the challenge is if I stop and then try to restart. I don't know what it is. I've just, in my experience, haven't been super successful because if I give myself permission to stop that once, I then stop again and again and again. And again, I don't have a lot of, current data to prove this, but I know this is my thing. And so I know what's important to me is to say this, that my job is to show up each day. And I've made this commitment to me, to commit to you, to commit to these videos, and to do it on a daily basis. That is my current commitment. And that means I come tired. That means sometimes I come super energized. That may mean, this week is going to be a little bit off and I'm a little bit nervous about feeling off and still not having finished a lot of the things that I had wanted to get done by this point. I get so easily distracted sometimes. Like today, my daughter happened to be home and I haven't really seen her in a long time and I won't get to see her next weekend. I really won't see her this week. And so instead of doing the things that I had objectively set out for my morning, which had started flawlessly. I woke up, I was in my cozy bed, the rain was storming outside. I just felt so nurtured in my blankets. I had felt just so comfortable. I was there with my thoughts. My phone was far away. My watch was far away. There was no contact with the outer world. I just was listening to the rain with the curtains closed, really appreciating this slow Sunday morning. And I started thinking about my business. I started thinking about just different things and ideas that were sparking excitement, that were making me feel excitement about popping out of bed. And then as I kept thinking and visioning and planning what my day was going to look like, I kind of started to feel I was so lost in the thought. I felt my eyes starting to get heavy again because it was dark in the room and I could feel them start batting. And I was listen, I have all these exciting things I want to do. If I continue to lay here, I'm going to go to sleep, which is fine. If that's what your choice is, I'm all for it. What are we going to do? I had ended up being up late last night. I decided to sit here and film for a third time. I have to say, I am not really good with decisions. And so all I did was take the best of what I filmed yesterday. I didn't compare it to my other 2 times. So basically those were all just for naught. And, I actually, for myself, pretty quickly was just nope, yes, nope. And they're within a few words of each other of what it was. But I think in my exhaustion, in my just wanting to get this uploaded tomorrow, I was this is it. This is going to be what it is. If I don't do it now, I can't upload it tomorrow morning because I need Chris to convert it to this 50 megabytes. And I want to make sure after I've done all this, at least get that part right. And so I was super proud of myself because I was okay, here's the one and here's the one. And like I said, again, it could be a combination of exhaustion or it is what it is. I don't know what it is, but I'm so grateful. That part is done. I just have to think of a 500-word bio and I'm totally done, which means tomorrow morning, I'm going to submit my Big Brother and Survivor applications. And that's it. That's all that's in my control. That's all that I can do. There's nothing I said in my videos that isn't true and isn't who I am. And they're either going to find a place for me on the show or not. And that's okay. That's their right. That is their job. My job was to show up and to submit the thing and to at least take the chance. Because if I don't submit it, I have a 0.00% chance. At least now, even if it's only a 0.1% chance, hey, I'll take anything, right? Because what is it? I mean, yes, there was about 3 days of my life that I, put on some makeup and I curled my hair and, I sat here filming for a couple hours. So, okay, whatever. No big loss, but I did it. Anyway, so my daughter's here and I just get so excited talking to people. And, I live in this male dominated house and bless my son Dylan's heart. He and Tyler and actually all of them will humor me as best they can, some more than others at this point. But, they know it's mama. They know I have good heart and good intentions for them and stuff like that. So, they really indulge me in my, excitement about all these things that maybe they're not that excited about, but they at least like seem like it. And it does seem like it plants seeds because it does end up coming back again. And I'm like, yay, like it was worth it. It worked out, right? But there's just something different sometimes about that girl energy that I crave. It's so reminiscent of having conversations with my grandma and my aunties and even my cousin. Like, I just, I'm in this place where I'm very okay with where I am. And most days I don't think about the places in which I want improved. Okay. Like I've been very honest here. My relationship with my husband is on rocky grounds. I don't on purpose, not that because nobody wants to be my friend. Like I am purpose. I have a lot of casual friends, but not a lot of friends that know like deeply. I will share my stories, as they come up, because I do believe like there's so much power in that. And like, I just want everybody to know, like, if you're sitting here giving me a compliment and recognizing something in me, that same thing is in you. Like you bring it out in me and it may be reflected on me. And the fact that you see me this way means that you're allowed to see this world in a beautiful way because you are celebrating somebody else's triumphs. And I think that's beautiful, especially in this world where, so many times we hear about like tragedies and we just hear about how people are nitpicking at somebody and canceling somebody and judging somebody else. And so for somebody to take the time and say something kind or recognize something kind and good in somebody else, that means there's a lot of kind and goodness in you, and you're just being part of those infinite ripples that turn into these big waves of just love and kindness. And that's the world I want to live in. And so when I'm sitting with my daughter, it's just this, it's like a nostalgia. It's like for so many years, I got on her dang nerves, right? I tried to be this super mom to her, and almost like I was like almost mothering a little girl me. And she is her own independent spirit. She was not me. And so that I can understand now. And I didn't know then that's what I was doing. I had every good intention. I thought I was just, being the Girl Scout leader, being the class mom, helping on the sports teams, being the team mom, organizing things, helping in the preschools, like helping in the classes. Like I thought I was doing all these things to tell her, I love you and you are important to me and I see you and I want to be a part of every minute of your life, even the ones that I traditionally wouldn't be a part of, like your school experience. That would be your school experience. And then you would come home and tell me what it was. But to be able to see her, thrive, or sometimes even be in sadness at her school, but then all of a sudden see her mom on campus, like it just meant so much to me because I remembered so many days when I would sit there and there was nobody. Like I didn't have necessarily, again, the friends. I didn't have, a teacher or a confidant or anything. I just was really alone and I felt so unseen and I felt so unloved and just even unworthy of love. And on occasion I was able to come out of it and, go play on the playground, and I was able to do like, the little hand games with little Miss Susie and, having a bell or something and, like being taught how to do those. Cause I would sit there and and just watch everybody else play or watch everybody else. We had these things called Chinese jump ropes, and I didn't have one, but I thought it was so fascinating how the young ladies, and sometimes the young boys, but it was typically the young girls and my classmates, they were moving their hands so fast and then turning into these different shapes and things. Or we would do these these things where you would fold the paper and then you would write, and then you fold it over, and then you'd go like this, and 1, 2, 3, and you'd lift it up, and it was like, ooh, you like this person, or ooh, you're gonna have this kind of car, and so I would observe, and from my observations is how I learned, and I had this whole assumption that because I didn't know, the reason I didn't know was because I didn't have a mom to teach me, and my dad didn't know to teach me, and even if he did, he probably would be so busy doing everything else, he wouldn't have had the time to do any of that with me. And so to be able to not only, and I volunteered and I helped with all my kids, but there was something different with my daughter, because it was like, again, like I say, I can see it now, but I didn't see it then. It was this, like, an attempt to almost heal the broken heart of me through her, and that wasn't really fair to her either. Like, I mean, it didn't seem wrong at the time, because all I was doing was like giving her more love and giving her things, but I wasn't necessarily listening to what she needed or what she wanted. But she would always be so happy, like, Mom, like she'd come running to me in the class, and just like the way she would look at me, like, in a way, it did feel like that feeling I wanted to have as a little girl in the classroom when the other moms came in, or the mom who was helping, at the class party or things like that. Like, I wanted to have that feeling where, we would go out to lunch at the lunch tables, and all the girls would be so excited, and they'd be looking in their bag, and, their moms would have packed these perfect, beautiful lunches, and everything was in perfect bags, and they would have love notes to them. I love you so much. Have a good day. And I remember like sitting there and feeling so lonely that at one point I began just pretending I had a mom, and I would write myself a note as if, anybody cared. I don't think anybody noticed I didn't have a note. And, it was just for me, I guess, in a way, like, I would write what I imagined, these moms were writing to their daughters. And I felt like, I wasn't like alienated from that. Like I wasn't missing out on it, but I still was, it was such a reminder of how much I really was actually missing by not having that relationship in my life. And again, I have nothing but forgiveness for her. I have nothing but understanding, because I know her, and I know her heart, and I know, like, just as many times as I've messed up with my kids, and I didn't mean to, right? I didn't want to. Like, we just are doing our best every day that we can. And sometimes we still make mistakes. And so I think about my mom, and I think about, she was young. She was like making these crazy decisions at 22, 21, 23. And doing what she thought was best. It was a different time. It was a different era. She had her own issues with, her mother was an alcoholic, and I loved that grandma. I didn't see her as much as my other grandma, and I never saw the alcoholic side of her, but her kids have. Like, my mom told me stories, and I was like, I can't even believe it, because I never saw that side of her. I mean, I believe her. I don't say that she's not. And then even her younger sister would talk about like the horrors of how mean and vicious my grandma was to them when she would get too drunk. And so like, I can understand the conundrum she was in, and then in this position where, she felt like she couldn't do it, she couldn't take care of us, and she had to take care of her own, like, mental health and stuff too, I would imagine. And I can imagine, like, in a way, I don't know this part of the story or what had driven her to like move so far away from us. But I can imagine it would be very difficult to be around the corner or 20 minutes away from your kids and not be able to see them every day. Like, you know, part of the reason, like, there's been so many years where I think Chris and I both have understood that this relationship is not, like, doesn't meet our expectations of what we want. And at the same turn, like, there's only certain times when, say, I'm working on it or he's working on it or we're simultaneously working on it. And those are far and few in between compared to the how many days, you know, almost 25 years that we've been together. And, you know, I think that that's a result of how broken we were, right? How much trauma and how many trauma bonds that we connected with one another. And, you know, the problem now is for the last 3 years, I'm like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm sticking to my guns. And this isn't a change he wanted. He didn't ask for this. It might have been less than ideal before, but this is torture for him because he doesn't want the change. He didn't ask for the change. He didn't see a necessity for the change. Like, he was happy and fine. Actually, he was great. I used to ask him, I was like, do you ever stress? And he was like, no, I don't need to. And then I would be like resentful and be like, yeah, because I stress enough for the two of us, you know, and like, no shame on him. Like, you know, it worked. I mean, great. Maybe if I could live in this stress-free world, you know, and I would, and I'm working on that to getting there in a healthy form. I'm not going to push the stress onto somebody else in order for me to be stress-free, but I can imagine how tough it would be to not wake up every day and see your kids. And I even remember, like, there were parts and many days in our in our marriage where things were so stressful, and I would have to tell myself like something, and I like two things. Like, number one is I would have to remind myself of this legacy, this generational legacy of how many of my ancestors, how many of my grandmas, my everything have abandoned their children. Like, I had to remind myself, I am breaking a generational curse. Like, every day I stay, every day I'm able to confront these really crazy situations. Like I said, I've had a kid with heart surgery. I've had a kid with brain surgery. I've had a kid with mental illness. And I have had a kid nearly die from eating a peanut, like, and a million things in between. And there were days, like, there used to be these commercials when I was young. It was like, Calgon, take me away, right? And then you're trying to stay optimist. You're trying to, like, advocate for them. You're trying to care for them. Like, you're doing all these things. And then when things keep happening, you just feel like an absolute failure. Like, I feel like this was all my fault. Like, what did I do so bad that, like, my kids are now paying the price for it? Like, why is my DNA so messed up that, you know, they have to go through all these crazy things and then I have to sit there and support them? Like, I just, you know, when do I have just the normal kids that are just having the normal average life? And then I have to remind myself, well, sweetheart, you're not normal, you're not average, and for a long time you wanted to be, but everything you love about yourself you've acquired because you're not like the rest of them. The reason why you can achieve what you can achieve and new things you believe what you believe is because you're not like everybody else, and that's a good thing. Like, that is what makes me special, and you're not like anybody else either. So I say all that to say, like, I know my mom must have just felt terrible, you know, like, I can't imagine it felt good. And I would say, I remember there were days that were really challenging, and I would look at my kids and I would be like, no matter what things Chris says or does to me and how I interpret, like, now, before the blame was fully on him. Now, you know, it was like, no matter how bad he makes me feel, as if he can make me do anything. Like, it is me. It is my interpretation. That is my responsibility. That is in my control. Being in his presence or not, you know, like, I have learned there are things that I can control. There are things I cannot control. He cannot control how I feel. Yes, he may contribute to it, but he is not his fault. That is on me. That is my work to do. So, you know, I remember, like, there would be really challenging days and I felt very unsupported, and even worse, like, it was just a very difficult relationship. And, you know, I remember having to, like, tell myself, I was just like, I love my kids more then I dislike him. Like, I had to tell myself that, because I wanted to be done. I didn't want to be in his presence anymore. I didn't want him in my presence anymore. I felt so unsafe and just so little, and I felt like I had abandoned everything I was in order for this family. And I just couldn't take like what I felt like was abuse at that time. And I remember thinking, I cannot leave my kids, or I cannot leave Chris. And it wasn't for leaving my kids. It was for leaving Chris. I cannot leave Chris for the fact that if I do, he is a good dad. And I would never take my kids from their dad. So if we separate, I need to be okay with the fact that I will not see my kids every day. And I just wasn't okay with that. Like, I came to the place where I would say, I would rather endure the hell of being with Chris than the hell of not being with my kids. And I'm not saying that's the right answer. I'm not saying that some psychologist, psychiatrist, somebody who is more advanced than I am can listen to me and say, that's not the right thing to do. Maybe, but this is my life. And for me, that was the right decision to make. I would make it again and again and again, because every day that I got to be with my kids has been a blessing. I understand when you see your child literally die for minutes before your eyes, minutes that feel like hours, you just know how precious life is. And I did live minutes without one of my children, and I didn't like that feeling. I've lived hours while they have had, one son was on bypass, which meant his heart was not beating. For hours, I sat there and lived in that experience. I sat there for hours as somebody cut into my son's brain and had to believe everything was going to be okay. And so when you go through these kind of things, when you have these experiences, they mold you in a different way. I have a different kind of resilience. And I'm not saying that we didn't model, everything a relationship shouldn't model. But for me, it was really important to spend each day with them. Now, again, this might have been from my own history and my own trauma that my mom wasn't there. So I'll take anything to be with them and not abandon them or have it perceived. I don't know the full psychological reasons. Now, I'm not there today. But what I am here to say is spending each day with them is so, so important to me. And what I've learned in this journey for me is that it's simply enough to show up. Like, it's simply enough to be here. And today, that's what I am. I'm on the tired side. I decided to utilize my time today, or at least a big chunk of it, talking with my daughter. It's not something I get to do all the time. And quite honestly, there's no promise I can do it tomorrow, next week, or the week after. And so I made that choice to say, okay, some of the things I wanted to get done personally, I'm going to put on hold in order to spend this time with her. And that was important to me. And that fills my tank in so many ways. But I'm tired, because I really hoped I'd be in bed by now. I really had hoped, I would have been a couple hours ahead. But I wouldn't change it for the world, because I just got to spend that time laughing. And there's something magical for me about doing it around a kitchen table. I think it's very reminiscent for me from when my grandma used to come, and then we'd eat and clean up, and she'd always bring over cookies and treats. She loved her goodies too. And she would dip it in her. She would do half water, half warm milk, and she would dip her little cookies in there. And she just was the sweetest thing. And we just had so many wonderful conversations sitting around the kitchen table. And the same with my aunties. We would sit there, have dinner. Sometimes we play cards, do different things. And then it would be hours of laughter and tears, and some more laughter and more tears. And next thing you know, the sun would be coming up. And these are the moments I love. And so I was thinking this morning during my meditation, I was thinking about, I had chose to do a guided one today, and it was about purpose. And it started talking about, not talking, but it was like, it was, you know, prompting, you know, me to kind of think about things. And when I got done with it, I really started thinking about like some of the things that bring me the most joy in this world, where I literally lose time and I feel like I'm in this other world, is when I'm speaking with people, whether I know you or just met you or have known you my entire life. Like, I've always wanted to, like, just getting that opportunity to speak to somebody, I feel like I learn so much. And then the fact that I even get to share with somebody else, that's pretty cool too. Like, I think that that's such a gift. And so I'm so grateful for this opportunity to spend time talking with you. Although I'm kind of talking to myself, like I would much rather be talking with you or talking with somebody. I've joked around with the people in my house. I'm like, anybody want to come interview with me? Like, come on, like somebody come talk with me. And they're like, no, it's okay, Mom. And I totally get it. Like, no hard feelings or anything. It's not their thing. But, you know, life is just what it is. So, you know, hopefully someday soon I'll be getting these published. I'm getting closer and closer. I'm sticking to the consistency. I have no regret. Even if I film and it's not like my best one ever, I am still doing today's best. And that's what I want to show up as. I want to prove to you everything I say, everything that I've done, it is true and consistent. This is me. You know, this is me being vulnerable. This is me saying, yeah, maybe there was a part of me today that was like, I'm really tired. I want to lay in bed, but I have to film. And then I reframe it and I'm like, I get to do this. Like, I get to share my story, and maybe somebody out there in this world will actually listen to it. I get to do this. And if on the worst case scenario, not a soul watches, I will at least have this documented for my children and my grandchildren, because my kids are in a different era of their life right now. They're not like in a marriage. They don't have children and a job and a mortgage and bills and rent and car payments and insurance and inflation and buying food and cooking food and parenting and guiding and, you know, hoping that, you know, you've got 2 kids graduating this year, one from college, one from high school, you know, worrying about them getting into jobs and colleges. Like, there's just so many things. Then you've got a relationship to worry about, an extended family to worry about, and all your dreams that you're finally trying to not worry about, but actually realize. And so they will have this, because I wish I could remember every one of those conversations with my grandma. I wish I could remember every one of those conversations with my Uncle Jerry. I wish I could remember every single one of those conversations with my Aunt Betty, with my mom, with my dad, like with my aunties. Like, every one of them is so filled with knowledge and wisdom and experience. And sometimes, again, just like if we read a book, right? We read the book, we hear things in there, and we can read the same book 2 years later and hear a whole different book in a way. You're like, wait a minute, I didn't even hear this part. Sometimes I've done this with even in the same week, and I'm like, I never heard this part. Like, this is so weird, you know, like I was hearing this and now I'm hearing this. So we're in different stages of our life. And what a gift is this, that like they will have this documentation forever and be like, that's my mom. Like, I didn't get her. I didn't understand, you know, why she did the things she did, or she seems so annoying waking me up in the morning. And now I can just see she just loved me. She was just doing her best. She just wanted the best for me. And she really wanted to have this experience where, you know, it was like the underdog, right? Like, they have been through so many complex things, just as I have. Like, we all want that underdog to thrive. We all want that, like, that good story. Like, we've already been through the rocky middle part, you know, the sad part. We've had the tears. Like, now is the time where everything works together. And so I say all that to say, I'm so glad you are a part of my life. You really have given me so much healing in this small amount of time. And I have one more thing to say today. So Bradley was given this succulent by his girlfriend for his graduation, which was about 2 years ago. And I went in one day to help water it because it was looking very sad, and it fell. I knocked it on the ground. The thing fell. It's succulents. I love succulents. Before, I was just big flower girl, but of recent years I've loved succulents because they're so fun to propagate, and they're just so fun and delicate to play with. They have different textures and shapes, and I really have grown this fondness to it. So it was a very beautiful succulent. and like masculine, you know, it was like kind of bluish colors in it. Anyways, it's kind of struggled. It was doing great after that. I then put the broken piece in. It grew its own life. But then I literally forgot he had it in his room. I wasn't going in the room to water it anymore. The thing was looking so sad. And so he just went out of town. And when he went out of town, I like to like go in there and be like, let me just do a quick vacuum and a dust and like put on the air purifier, open the windows, wash the bedding, like move like some things around. I know it's probably invasive, but I'm like, yeah, listen, I can't. Anyways. So I do that and I see the succulent. I'm like, oh my gosh, I forgot about this thing. So I took it. I've been watering it. I'm like, this thing just looks so sad still. And so today I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get all the dead ones off. I'm going to remove it around. The ones that have kind of overgrown, I'm going to put under. Anyways, I did that and I looked and it still looked a little sad. It was like 4 little, you know, succulent plants like now at this point because the one had turned into 4. And I'm looking at it, it was sad. And then I happened to be in the kitchen. And so I looked outside and all the like succulents that I've planted over the last couple years are now like, they were like flourishing. And so I was like, I'm going to go out there and do like pinch a couple of them. I'm going to put it in there. And so I sat here and I just like, it took me like 2 minutes. I went out, I pinched a couple here, pinched a couple there. And then I was like, I'm just going to stick them in here and, you know, I'll give it to him this way because, you know, or I'll leave it if he doesn't want it. I'll keep it. I don't care because it just like felt like it was like so sparse and so sad looking. And so I wanted to share, and I'm not like a big like thing, but like I created this whole thing in like 2 minutes. And I'm telling you, I felt so much joy today, like looking at my windowsill and just seeing life and seeing where like it was such this vivid reminder that we're like of us, like we can go from nothing. We can go from broken and dead leaves and sad and dry to like having these creative visions in our head and putting it together artistically in a matter of seconds, putting it on the windowsill and like the sun was shining on it and just each one of the leaves seemed like they were just twinkling in their own way. And I just was like, I'm so glad. Like I have this new life in my room. Unless Bradley wants it back, I'll give it back to him. It's totally his. But it brought me so much joy today to just look over as I was doing my running, as I was doing my writing, as I was doing my room cleaning, like to just see this life and something that I had taken that was nothing and turned it into something, and that it brings me all this joy. And that's what this channel is. That's what my writing is. That is what my life is. Like it's gone from nothing to something that is bringing me so much joy. My room is this reflection of my inner self. Like for years, it was a disaster. Piles of clothes, piles of paper, disorganization, chaos, clutter, dust, you name it. I was living in this tumultuous, chaotic place. That was a reflection of what was going on inside. And I was, this morning when I was doing my little dusting, my little cleanup, I was like, I am so at peace. My room is at peace. Everything in here, including now this beautiful little succulent arrangement, is in here with a purpose. Everything in here is intentional. Anything else that doesn't fit me or will no longer fit me will leave. I have a sign that says believe, and it's really gotten me through. When I started my journey, this was like a Christmas thing, but when I had started, it was a reminder to believe in myself. And when I look at this, I feel super proud, and I feel like this reminder, like, yes, believe. And that's what it took. It took for me to believe. I've got my little Buddha Bai baby over here, and he was from my grandma, who went to my uncle, who went to me. And then I saw one time in a restaurant, somebody put, or not, yeah, it was a restaurant, a deli. They had a big, humongous one, and they had coins on it. And I was like, oh, I better give him some coins. I don't know what it is. Everything. I have a sign that's in front of me that you can't see, and it has the name of my book. I know it's going to be the name of the book. It's going to be the name of my channel. It's going to be the name of a company that I start, but yet it's a part of everybody. I have pictures of my kids in here. I have beautiful smelling things. I've got books I want to read or have read. Like, and it's just, I have pictures of me as a little girl when I really needed that. I really found this place in my life where I needed to celebrate this little girl. I needed to go in and I needed to find her because she represented so much of me on that swing and just being goofy and showing off her missing teeth. And now I have the addition of that 300-pound me. And if people come in and they're like, why do you have this up here? Because it's not something I should be ashamed of. That's one of the proudest days of my life. I had that courage to pull up my shirt, pull down my shorts, show everything I wanted to hide from the world and say, no more of this one day business. Today is day one. To have that courage to do that and then take action on it. I am proud of that girl. I am going to hang that girl from the top of the ceiling because you know why? I love her. My life today is 1000% easier. It is a 1,000,000% better because of the decision I made that day. And if your life is in a place where you're struggling, if you're that 300-pound girl, but it comes out to you in a different way, if you're whatever it is, you can make a change too. It doesn't have to be big, just something small that you can really manage and do. So like this, for me, it's huge, but it's small and I can do it every day. Sad, happy, energized, weak, I can be here and my commitment to you is I'm going to show up the best I can until I reframe my model. If I want to change it, that's okay. You know, I like with my physical transformation. It did not start exactly where I am today. It has been a transformation, and that's what this is. This is an inspiration. This is a transformation. So I say all that to say, I felt super tired going into this. I still feel heavy in my eyes, but I am so happy I did this. I feel like I've had a lot of breakthroughs, and I feel like I've had an amazing time. So what better way to end my self-care Sunday than end it with you? So thank you so much for everything you do, for listening to me, for believing in me. And if I could just ask you one quick favor today, please go out there, give somebody a big smile, give them a compliment, and just watch how they glow up. Thank you. Bye.